I joined my father in 1979 and we split responsibilities. I was supposed to direct the books of the bookshop, whereas my father was keeping what he really loved, the production of photos, black and white photos, postcards, color slides, prints, copper prints, today you might call them posters of different sizes. This was really his main activity. Within 2 years, I developed the bookshop. The turnover jumped eightfold, so I needed more space for the magazine. And I found this huge wooden box containing glass plates. And I asked my father what that. And he said, "Oh, it is old photos. You can throw them away if you want." I never got it over my heart to do it myself. As geologist, I know you can always throw something out, but first I wanted to know what is it about. Glass plate, you see through a negative, you don't recognize much. And we had a photographer in his youth. He was assistant photographer, but at that time he was employee of the government with a very low salary. So he liked to work in the afternoons. We had a lab. Later, when I understood more about photography, I was surprised how with primitive machines he could do a good job. Not perfect, but a good job. An awful paper machine which were not really in shape anymore, but he succeeded. So I gave him every day 10 glass plates and told him, please, 2 of each, 2 copies of each. And I try to understand what is all that about. You know, some are portraits, some are oases, somewhere in North Africa. I had no clue where it was. Until a day, a group of tourists entered in the room, speaking French, and one of them, without looking at him, they were on my back, was saying, "Oh, look, that's my home country." So without looking at him, said, "Sir, you are wrong. It's not in France, it's somewhere in North Africa." So he came in front of me, quite angry, said, "Sir, okay, I'm French, but I'm born in Algeria and that's my country." And he was, in fact, working in the French embassy, translating the Egyptian press into French. And he is the one who introduced me, let's say, to the Maghreb, Tunisia and Algeria, and especially to the tribe of the Ouled Nile. In the Maghreb, like in Egypt, people disliked to be photographed. This, we know it. With the exception of the Ouled Nile, as children they learn to dance and play music. At a young age they will tour the Maghreb, and when they earn enough money they will go back to their village, which is in southeast Algeria, and there the woman will choose her husband. It is an exception in North Africa, and these people do not, for them it's not a problem to pose as model for photography being paid correctly, depending on how long they have. You know, to take a photo at that time, you had to stay, not to move for 2 or 3 minutes. So it was not easy. But the results are what we have today, a perfect, beautiful collection of portraits of these ladies, very well dressed, half dressed or not dressed at all. Tutankhamun was discovered in 1922, and that gave the push for them to come to Egypt. But of course, Leinert could never photograph the item of Tutankhamun. He photographed the Egyptian museum. We have some 800 photos of the museum, and half of them I could prove were taken by Leinert. Tutankhamun, the pieces were transferred to the museum by and by. The last item after 1930, when Leinert had left Egypt already. So who took the photos of Tutankhamun in our collection? We have over 200 glass plates and films. I don't know. Probably, as I know what happened later with my father, I guess لاندروك made the same. He used a photographer of the museum, paying him to work for him, officially. لاندروk's dream was to publish the first illustrated color book on Tutankhamun. Making these photos was the first step. The second one was, you know, when you photograph through a window, you have reflex, you have the frame of the window, which is disturbing. There was a company in Braunschweig in Germany who could clean out all that. And the third step was an artist was coloring them. I guess the artist was in Germany using color photos which were not really true color photos at that time, because on the reverse of many of these hand-painted photos, لاندروك wrote by hand, the red should be more magenta. Everything was ready to publish the book. 1942, it was in the middle of the Second World War. The first catastrophe was a law in Germany forbidden to print in color. I guess IG Farben was bombed, and the Germans wanted to keep the few color they had for their own propaganda pamphlets. Few months later, the editing company and the printing company were bombed. So whatever was there at that time was destroyed. The good thing is that whenever a glass plate, let's say a photo was all right, it was sent back to Egypt. So I had at my disposition 75 hand-painted photos, and on top of that 25 postcards taken from such hand-painted photos who had been probably destroyed during the Second World War. And by the way, with this material, I made myself a book. What لاندروك wanted to do, I made it myself. I made it in French, German, and English, in all 3 languages.